Okay, how's everybody doing? Of course, my name is Kent. It's about midnight here in Southern California. I'm walking along State Street here in Southern California. And I want to talk a little bit tonight about the end game of what's going to happen in the near future with the economy and how things are going to turn out. Because you're hearing so much negative on all the different news outlets, media, even YouTube. I mean, everything is clickbait. We're coming to the last few months. Everything's falling apart. The world's coming to an end. I mean, they can't create more clickbait than they've already created. It's overwhelming. In fact, it's depressing to go on YouTube and listen to stuff when you're trying to find out some information about the economy and you get all this negative clickbait. But I will say it's hopefully, because I say hopefully, because I'd like to see things straighten up a little bit. It's coming to some sort of decision time where they've got to make a decision on what to do with the economy, mainly the consumer, because the consumer is struggling. And how the consumer is struggling is by the massive amount of inflation that we're dealing with, and nobody really knows the true number because it's never been. There's no way to really measure the true number, and then they're also trying to hide the true number. The true number is probably well over 10% in inflation. What your buying power of your dollar is. It's going down that much every year. So when you have an economy like ours is based on the Federal Reserve System that prints money out of thin air, and then we borrow the money from the Federal Reserve, and that system is basically a Ponzi scheme. And during the Ponzi scheme, if you want to keep the Ponzi scheme going, the only way to keep it going is you have to keep bailing people out. So as things start to collapse, corporations need money, you bail them out. You give them federal loans, you help them out, you give them government subsidies, you give them money, and then you help them out. And then as other things start to collapse in the economy, you just continue to print money to bail people out. And that's the way it goes, because that's the way the system is. When you got a Ponzi scheme and everybody is starting to fail, as they're failing, you're just figuring out ways to get them money so you can keep them going. Too big to fail. That's how the 2008 financial crisis took place. You know, it was the corporations and the banks were too big to fail, so we had to go in and we had to figure out a way to bail them out. Well, now the end game is the last party that's getting bailed out or needs to get bailed out is the consumer. The people that own these businesses along the street that I'm walking along, the small business person, you know, the Vigilucci's here, the restaurant right there. There's a small Yoshino's that's a sushi place. These are the people right now that need to be bailed out because they're the people paying the high prices that this economy, the inflation is giving them by increased prices for their products, increased prices for their electricity, increased prices for their employees. Now we have $20 an hour as a minimum wage here in Southern California. So they're not able to meet those increasing costs. So somehow the federal government's going to have to figure out a way to bail out the last party in this financial system, which is the consumer, which is the everyday ordinary citizen, the businesses. They're going to have to figure out a way to bail people out. We're going to get the bailout. The everyday ordinary person's going to get the bailout. The corporations, the banks, and everybody else, they've been getting the bailouts. Now everybody's going to have to get the bailouts, everybody. So how do you do that? Probably going to have to do that with some sort of a stimulus payment going to people, and I think the stimulus payment is going to come in the form of a digital wallet and a cryptocurrency. So that's why I love Bitcoin so much, because I think Bitcoin's kind of the forerunner to what's going to happen in the digital government starts bailing out people with digital currency. If they don't do that, then we will fail. The economy will fail because people will just go out of business. They can't afford to pay the prices, and when they can't afford to pay the prices anymore, then the economy it fails. You know, finally, there is no more bailing people out. There's no more, hey, let's just print more money and give the banks another run at it. Let's just print more money, give the corporations another go at it. And when the people can't afford to buy the products or the goods or the services that are being offered, then everything collapses. And when that collapses, then everything collapses. And we know that that's not going to happen. So I believe that there's going to be the end game here is going to be there's a final group that needs to get bailed out, and that final group will be the consumer, the everyday, ordinary day consumer. And there is some precedence for this, and one of the precedences that I've seen in this is because when I was a farmer back in the 80s, in the early 80s, we had the farming financial crisis, and you couldn't make it on the farm anymore. The prices were too low, your commodity prices were too low, and the cost of running a farm was too high. So everybody was failing, and people were losing their farms, and the only thing they could do is they just went out of business. There more farm auctions, and more people were just quitting farming. And of course, that's not good for the country when the farmer goes out of business, because the farmer is the guy that makes the food or brings the food to the table. So they had to create a PIC program. They had to create a stimulus plan, and then the farmers got the payments from the government. So you started farming the government payments. So instead of going out and treating the land like you ordinarily would because it was you would rotate the farm, you would plant this crop or plant that crop. Now the government stepped in and they told you how to raise your crops. You put land in the set aside, or you didn't grow certain crops because if you did, you got a subsidy, because if the price didn't meet a certain target price, then all of a sudden the rules changed. There was no more. It wasn't the free market system anymore. Now it was whatever the government told you to do, whatever they told you to grow. So this is the way it's going. I mean, we're going to go into a time here very near where the government's going to have to start bailing people out. They're going to have to do it with stimulus payments or some sort of rebates or government programs. I think it's going to be done in a cryptocurrency, some sort of cryptocurrency backed system, where they can inject the money right into your bank account, your digital wallet, which we all already have from the 2020 days. And people are going to start getting stimulus payments because they can't afford to pay the rents or buy the homes or do the things that they need to do in order to keep this economy rolling. So that's the way I believe the end game is going to happen. It's going to happen through some sort of stimulus payments to the everyday ordinary individual. I'll flip the phone around here real quick and say good night to you, and hopefully tomorrow I'll get another video going. We'll see what I can come up with tomorrow. Appreciate you watching. Thank you. So tomorrow I'll probably do something during the day, hopefully down along the beach. I appreciate you watching. Thank you.